Hey mathematicians, welcome to Hot Topics this week. We are talking about graphs and data. So first off, I just want to kind of talk about data is a collection of information, and that can be a lot of different things. You may have seen things like circle graphs, or sometimes we call them pie graphs because they look like, different sized pieces of a pie. But they show information, and we're going to look at two different ones this week. We're going to look at bar graphs, which you can see why they're called bar graphs because it looks like a bar, and then we're going to look at line plots. So when we look at bar graphs, we have a couple of things that we want to notice and kind of keep track of. First of all is that our bar graph has two parts. We have our x-axis, it's this line that goes from the left to the right, and then we have our y-axis, that line that goes up from the top to bottom. And usually our x-axis are our categories. So let me back up. So this graph is showing quantities, so amounts of fruit sold. So our x-axis is going to be talking about different fruits. So here we've got apples, and then oranges, bananas, kiwis, blueberries, and grapes. So we are going to be, this red graph is going to show you how many apples, orange is going to show you how many oranges, blue is bananas, and so on. So your x-axis, when you look on it, is going to be different types of fruits. The y-axis, the left side, says quantities of fruit in kilograms, so the amount. So here we've got 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, and it goes all the way up to 40 because we don't need to go any higher than that. But how we read this kind of is we look at this and we say, okay, how many kilograms of apples were sold? Well, we look at our bar graph and we go all the way to the top and we see, okay, the top is at 35. So 35 kilograms of apples were sold. If we look at bananas, it's so much smaller, and ours ends here. The top of our bar graph is there, and it's at 10. So 10 kilograms of bananas were sold. So it's a way to display information, and when you look at it, you can learn a lot of stuff, like you might be able to deduce maybe what sold more, grapes or blueberries. So if we want to look at which sold more, we would look at blueberries. Okay, blueberries sold 40 kilograms and grapes only sold 5. So just looking at this graph, we can already tell that blueberries sold more than grapes. If we want to know how much more, well, how many kilograms of blueberries did we sell? 40. How many did we sell of grapes? 5. So we would take 40 minus 5 to see how many more blueberries were sold. So that's kind of a quick thing on bar graphs. The next one is a line plot. And the line plots are usually shows a little bit different information than a bar graph does, because you usually have different quantities. So for example, this is a survey of hours spent reading. So hours spent reading in a day, and we've got, down here on the bottom, 1 1.25, 1.5 hours, 1 3/4 hour, 2 hours, 2 1/4, all the way up to 3 hours. And our bar graph says our line plot says each X represents one student. So this shows me I have 3 X's here on 1 hour. So 1, 2, 3. That tells me 3 students spent 1 hour reading. When I look at 2 hours, I have 2 X's, so that means 2 students spent 2 hours reading. So we can see, okay, we have multiple things of the same score, right? Or the same amount of time reading. So 3 hours, I had 4 people who spent that much time reading. And so you would use this data if you were looking at a collection to kind of see, how much people are doing something or how much they use of something. Like you might ask, how many hours do you spend playing video games a day? And you might have 5 students who tell you, oh, I play 1 hour. So then you would put 5 X's on the 1 hour. You might have 2 students who say, I play 2 hours every day. So you might put 2 X's there. So it's another way to track data. And you can also look at this like, okay, how many students read for 3 hours last night? 4. Did more students read for 3 hours, or did more students read for 2 hours? Well, 4 students read for 3 hours and 2 students only read for 2. So you can see more people read for 3 hours than did for 2. So you can see a lot of different information here, and you're going to get an opportunity to not only interpret, but also practice making your own line plot. So these are 2 different graphs, and we're going to get into more of them later, but I just wanted to show you 2 this week.